Hey folks, Fernando, and it is terrible news all over. It's game over in Europe. It's done. People are becoming desperate. The lines that you see for filling up gas in gas stations are miles long. Inflation is throwing so many people into poverty, absolute misery, hunger, and winter is coming, like in Game of Thrones. And you are looking at a catastrophic scenario. This is game over, literally game over. The United States is just a few steps behind, but basically the same thing. Record inflation, record unemployment, people that cannot feed themselves, lines and lines, miles long for every single food bank across the United States. Combining that with natural disasters, people leaving their home states trying to find shelter elsewhere. And we've never seen such a disaster before. It is basically game over, the end. I mean, we are at end of times events. And if you want me to keep on inflating this doom and gloom balloon, I can keep doing this all day long. And 99% of what I'm saying is just bullshit. But that's apparently what a lot of people want to click on. That's apparently what a lot of people get a massive dopamine rush when they click on scenarios and clickbait titles like that. I was just watching some of the other YouTube channels regarding preparedness and survival. It is amazing, but they have the most views of us all. The more you do this kind of crap, the more people click on it. They get a rush out of it. They just eat that stuff up, even if it's not true. And I'm telling you right now, it's just not true. It's not a matter of opinion. It's simply not real. Do we have very high inflation, record inflation? Yes, of course we do. Do you have a lot of people that because of that are becoming poor and have to adjust? Yes, of course, all over in the United States, in Europe. Yes, that's true. Is England, UK in particular being hit very bad, even though the press is not nearly covering it in the international scenario nearly as much? Yeah, I know for a fact. It's not just about the numbers. I have family over there, and they tell you, yeah, it's bad. Mostly because of, a series of mistakes, economical ones, political ones in some cases, and just bad decisions. Yes, things are bad. Is it the end of the world in UK? No, it's not. No, it hasn't been. Even when years ago we were talking about this, it's not the end of the world, and it's not game over, and it's not the apocalypse, and it's not all of this bullshit that people love to eat up, okay? I know a thing or two about inflation, right, guys? Those of you that have been following my channel for a while know exactly what I'm talking about. I was born in Argentina, lived there most of my life, gone through the... it was actually a couple of serious economic hyperinflation, and then in 2001, the economic collapse, the political collapse, social collapse, having presidents resign and the guy replacing him resigning the following day. That's not the kind of thing you see every day. I saw that, went through that, and that's, if you want to learn more about how, massive, catastrophic inflation is like, I wrote my book about that. This book that I always mention in my videos, Surviving the Economics, is actually about surviving an economic collapse. It's as the title says. This thing that they're trying to tell you is happening right now, it's not happening right now. It happened back then in Argentina, and yes, it was an economic collapse. When you have 50% inflation a year, 100% inflation a year, not 12%, 10%, 9%, even 40% a year. Those are rookie numbers. Think of 100% inflation or 50% inflation every year for a decade. That's what you're looking at. Think of hyperinflation like the one you see in Venezuela, where you have, money is basically worthless. Basically, that's what you're looking at. So yes, those are real scenarios. Those are real cases in which you can say, you can put a clickbaity title, in YouTube that says, yes, game over, the economy has collapsed. And in that case, yes, it would be true. The economy has collapsed in that scenario. You did go through 5 different presidents in a week because the guy replacing the other one, and you did have, your basic constitutional rights, habeas corpus, all of that. It was all gone, and you were living under military rule for that time in which you couldn't gather for more than 3 people, and you couldn't be out at night, and you had massive rioting and looting widespread through the country. It was a state of anarchy. Yeah, all of that is true. Is this what's happening right now in Europe? Are you kidding me? No, of course not. Is this happening in the United States? No. Do you have a financial crisis unfolding in several fronts? Yes, of course, that's true. Is there an ongoing conflict in yes, of course, yes. We all know that. We all know what we're talking about. Have we come out of 2 years of dystopian madness in political fronts due to the pandemic? Yes, in many cases, rights were stripped away, and our liberties suffered and abused, and we all know what we're talking about. Now, this is not game over. This is not the end of the world. This is not massive famine worldwide. And when you fall for that, you end up just becoming a pit of negativity and darkness. And I clearly see that a lot of people are going for that. I mean, I'm not saying don't prepare. I mean, my entire channel is dedicated to preparedness. My life's work is dedicated to this stuff. All of what I write about, what I do, it's basically about being prepared for different events. But you have to keep it real. If you don't keep it real, this stuff is not going to be helping you, right? If you learn how to use those things, but you're not in tune with reality, you're still in a horrible position so as to be truly prepared. I mean, you can't survive even moderate struggles if that's what's happening to you right now. Inflation right now in the world, what is it? I was just checking this up, and it comes to mind. These are rookie numbers: 0 to 1, 2 to 5, 5 to 15. That's it. I mean, the real inflation is not even in this map. Argentina, who had, what is it? I don't know, 50%, 100% inflation, depending on the year. Venezuela. So the record countries, the top three most, I think it's Venezuela and Argentina. I think those are the top two most inflation in the world. Venezuela is like a 1,000,000%, something like, insane like that. And Argentina isn't far away in that top 2 or top 3 ranking. That's not even here. So that's what they just put in no data. There's nothing. Most of Africa, we don't even bother. We're looking at just civilized first world countries in terms of, what inflation is like. The rest is just, it's impossible to measure. There's no realistic data. So these places, as bad as it is, 10% inflation, 15% inflation a year is no joke. That means a lot of people thrown into poverty. That means a lot of misery and even death for a lot of people. No, I'm not saying that's not the case. I'm in fact saying it's exactly like that, and it's very complex. But this idea of just going nuts over nothing, which I see in so many of these preparedness channels, and again, I'm not pointing at anyone in particular because I see several of the biggest channels doing this, and I guess it's fine. People like that. It's just yet another product. It's a digital. This is the new age, guys. It's a digital product that people consume, just like you consume, in the physical world, a sandwich. You consume doom and gloom and negativity through these videos where it's game over. It's the end. We're done. Prepare for the apocalypse. The apocalypse is already here. That is the madness that some people live on. They feed on that crap all day long. I'm telling you right now, you probably can go out, go outside a little bit more, talk with your family a little bit more, with your friends, enjoy, go out for dinner, have a good time. Yes, I know that not everyone's pocket is in the same state, and some people are struggling more than others, but across the developed world, people have it great. That's simply the way it is. Now, if you want to talk about true misery and hopeless scenarios, you have to go to some of these other countries that are not even registering. My own country, this is sad for me. My own country does not even register in where inflation is the highest and lowest across 44 countries. I guess they don't even consider us a country anymore. So that's sad. And they don't consider most of Africa a country, I guess. Or the data is not reliable enough to even bother with, right? But these numbers, I mean, 5%, 10%, and yes, inflation is a lot worse than they actually say it is, especially for lower and middle class people, because it's affecting mostly fuel, energy, food, basic services, medical care, these things that affect mostly poor and middle class people. And especially in the United States, the healthcare inflation affects people, I would even say, more than food, because you just cannot choose to not get treatment when you need it. And that is a particular sore spot in the American economy, the way in which for most of the middle class and even some of the upper middle class, depending on the medical needs that they may have, you're talking about people going bankrupt because of an accident, because of a disease. So yes, that is serious. Now, it is not the end of the world. Even if you see inflation going up, even if you see political massive political problems unfolding, and yes, they are happening. Some countries are better off than others. Italy, you would be very happy in Italy right now. You just got a prime minister that is definitely in tune with what people want, and she's saying that she's ending with all of this bullshit that we all so often complain about in the channel. Yeah, I mean, if I'm Italian right now, I'm in a good place, right? In spite of everything going on, in spite of the things that you definitely should keep in mind and prepare for, which we do here in the channel all the time. We've been doing this for over a decade now, guys. The channel is over a decade old, and my books have been around for about the same amount of time, right? So if this is your lifestyle, if this is what you do, you're probably kind of well prepared. I mean, I went through the pandemic without much of a problem. Some of the things, some of the basics that people will, I have to get this mask because I have to go to the supermarket. Well, I had some of that stuff already. Of course, it wasn't enough for 2 years, and some of the stuff I used was probably not what most people have, in terms of gas masks and that sort of thing. But if you've been preparing, I'm not saying you have everything you need, but you have probably more than enough to get you through some of the more complicated points, even when something as unlikely as a pandemic unfolds. You're still kind of well prepared because that's what you do. Okay, so and for the rest, you just navigate through it as best as you can. But this idea that it's the end of the world, even if you have prices going, even if you have food shortages, you think there's going to be massive famine and half of the world starving to death and some of this insanity the likeliness of that happening. There's people talking right now as if this is already happening, and they're just lying. It's simply not true. I can just walk out my door right now and see around, and it is not happening. And I can just walk across the entire freaking continent, and I won't see any of that. Yes, you will see people that are, in worse shape economically than before. People that are poorer than before. Yeah, of course. Other than that, not so much. And across the United States, it's pretty much the same. And yes, you have, in the case of the United States, you have cities in particular that have been taken over by, radical left-wing politicians that are just doing insane things. And just, when we talk, I've done videos before about releasing criminals into the streets, because that's the political, wedge they're going for. That's the political, game they're playing. And like that, so many other things. In the case of the United States, I would say that yes, depending on where you are, you're looking at serious decisions that you have to make. A lot of that is going to be about this stuff, guys. Again, if you have been preparing all along, at least the way I do it, this book is kind of old already. I published this when was this? 2014, okay? So if you bought this in 2014 and you read it, you're probably out of these states already. You made the decision that I explained here before all of this unfolded to this point. You were looking at the scenario you're dealing with, and you made some rational decisions, and you relocated. You're not a refugee. You're not running for your life. You're basically relocating strategically, not because of some fantasy delusion, but because of analyzing the political and economic and social context which you find yourself in. This is not something I like. I'm making this decision right now. Okay, so you're not there anymore. You're in some other state. You moved to Florida, you moved to Texas, and this is what some of the wealthier, more informed people have been doing all along. This is what people do when they actually prepare in the right way, at least the way I see it. Yours may be completely different. There's maybe someone right now hiding in a bunker, clutching his AR, waiting to shoot it out with whoever it is. But that is not what's happening in the world right now. And I want to end this so as to not do the video super long. If you let negativity consume you, what's even the point in being alive? And not only that, because life is short enough as it is. The good times are short enough as they are. I look around and I wouldn't change my life with anyone in the world. I love my family. I have a great reality that I understand that is true privilege. It's not because of my skin color. It's not because of whatever woke nonsense it is. No, it's privilege because I'm in a position where I can look around and, I wouldn't change my life with anyone, and there's people that are suffering bad because of family problems with their kids, with their spouses, nasty divorces, bad economic situations, awful jobs, even people that make good money may have a job that they actually hate. So they have enough money, but their life is still shit. So I look around and I'm blessed, lucky, whatever you want to call it. I'm super happy with that. So should I be worrying and falling for this darkness of doom and gloom that is not real, that is pure fun? No, I would be an idiot if I do that. And even if your position is less lucky or less fortunate and you have heavy crap to deal with in your life, the same still applies. It's just a matter of sorting stuff out and going on with your life as best as you can. Probably, and maybe I'm just growing old. I talk about this with my wife all the time. Maybe we're getting old, and we see like health is a big thing. We're super lucky in that regard, and you take it for granted. But there's so many people that have terrible diseases, medical conditions that they have to just live with as best as they can with a much reduced quality of life. People that have family problems with their kids or spouses, and especially given everything going on, that's more and more common. Now, is this something you prepare for as well? Yes, it is. We talk about that in the channel, and I'll be talking about that a lot more because I actually wrote it down so as to know the thing that we are looking at, the worst threat that we have right now is not the end of the world. It's not the hyperinflation across the planet and everyone's starving to death. No, that's very unlikely to happen. That doesn't mean you won't see high food prices. Yes, you will. Yes, that's a reality. That means you have to be better prepared for that. And whatever, if you have a farm, you produce food, you have a better income, you supplement that income with other economic activities that you do. You're smart about this stuff. You'll figure it out. Okay. And if not, you'll suffer until you do. If you have a crappy job that's not paying enough, maybe you change your job. Maybe you find something else. And if it's bad all over, again, maybe you just move out of town. You go somewhere else. And if something bad happens to you, you prepare for that as well. And understanding all of this, that's basically the key. But the way I see it right now, the real threat is not in not having enough food. It's actually the opposite. More people are not starving to death in the developed world. Most people are dying because they're overfed. They're obese. Not only are they obese, they're eating crap, low quality food. That's one of the things that is killing the most people as of right now. This moment, people are not starving to death. People are overeating themselves to death right now. Okay? And that's probably a case of a lot of people even watching this right now. Even being slightly overweight, that's not good for you. And you have to be honest with yourself about that. Okay, maybe, my life is good. Okay, I have this to look into. I have to work out more, do exercise. How many times a week do you do any cardio? How many hours? 1, 0, 2, 3? Okay, maybe you can work with that. And no one is perfect here. I'm definitely not perfect, so I'm always looking at the things that I'm staying back or behinding, and that I should be taking care of better. Sure, you do that, but I'm telling you right now, the challenge is not people starving to death. The challenge today, right now, the reality, not the insane fantasy that some of these clickbaiters want you to fall for. The reality is that people are eating themselves to death right now. And people are feeding their kids to death with junk food as well right now. And that's the health food aspect of this. Then you have the psychological freedom aspect or woke aspect of this. Families are being destroyed physically and mentally as well. We are being attacked in the core of our society, our families, and it's happening in schools, it's happening in culture. I was just watching one of the cartoons my 4-year-old was watching. All of a sudden, it had a neighbor showing up with two daddies. Man, that's the kind of evil, social engineering that you have to be aware of. If you catch that, you have to eradicate that from your life immediately. That's not something that's healthy. That's something that it's targeting attacks towards toddlers, towards little kids. And it's happening in schools. It's happening in the media that we watch. I mean, if you're watching Fox News like many conservatives do, you had that very nice piece about this transgender children and how that's wonderful, right? And they just slip that in. They just let that go in. And yeah, that would be maybe one of the things that I'm more concerned about. The way in which we're losing freedoms and liberties that we used to take for granted left and right. It's happening worse in some parts than the others. Maybe it's happening worse in your area and you don't even realize. And you think, oh, it's worse over there. Man, it's probably not. If you, we have it good here, probably you don't have it as good as you think. Probably in that aspect, that's something that you should be very much aware of. And I read, forums and I see people, what would be the point in having all the guns in the world, having 50 ARs and 10,000 years of food and a massive bunker so as to really survive, what would be the point of that if all of a sudden my son came out as, okay, then you screwed up. You didn't take care of a front that you should have. You left that, or even I've lost count of how many guys in AR15.com say, oh yeah, my daughter is a Democrat. She's a activist for LGBT. My son is this. My daughter is this. Well, you failed. You failed at that. It sucks. No one likes to admit it. But these are the things. These are the real challenges, guys, that we're facing right now. If you're losing your mind over, will I be able to buy a can of tuna in 5 years or 10 years from now? You're missing the point. Have the freaking tuna. I have it. You have it as well if you prepare at all. We talk about this all the time. Have a year worth of food, have 5 years worth of food. The more you have, the better it is. And have all the resources, all of the physical resources you could possibly have. But stay tuned with reality. Don't disconnect from what's really unfolding. Personally, I'm planning a great couple days ahead of us. I don't share this stuff with you guys because that's part of my private life. This is all I give away. This is all I share with you because I appreciate that. I'm not trying to show an image. Probably would have a lot more followers if I did that. Probably would have a lot more subscribers. Probably a lot of those poor little kids that don't actually have families for themselves would sign up and follow this in the loneliness of their rooms while their parents have more important things to take care of, and they will click on that and watch it, and my views and subscribers would go through the roof. That would be nice, right? I don't give a damn. I really don't care. I'm not willing to sacrifice or expose myself or my family in that way. So this is what I do. I communicate. I write books. I share stuff with you through videos. If that's enough for you, awesome. If not, well, you know exactly where to go. But yeah, guys, keep it real. The delusion, the fantasy, the apocalyptic doom and gloom that has always existed in our community is off charts right now because we are facing real challenges. But it's not nearly as bad as some out there really want you to believe it is. Simply because you'll just click on that thing. Folks, see you on the next one. Take care.